If you're over 35 and you've noticed a drop in performance, stamina, or confidence, this might surprise you. There's a simple drink you can make at home. 1 cup per day that supports circulation, nitric oxide, and vascular health, the real foundation behind strong performance. And no, it's not a pill. It's not a prescription. It's something natural that works with your body instead of forcing it. Most men think erectile dysfunction is just about hormones. They immediately jump to testosterone. But in many cases, the real issue is blood flow. If the arteries are stiff, inflamed, or clogged with plaque, the body simply can't deliver enough circulation when it matters. The mechanism behind most medications is increasing nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels and improves circulation. So instead of masking the symptom, what if we supported that pathway naturally? The drink I'm talking about is beetroot based. 1 cup of fresh beet juice per day. Beets are extremely high in dietary nitrates. When you consume them, your body converts nitrates into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes and widens blood vessels. This improves endothelial function. That's the inner lining of your blood vessels. When the endothelium works properly, circulation improves throughout the entire body. And here's something important. Erectile dysfunction is often an early warning sign of cardiovascular problems. The arteries involved are smaller than the coronary arteries. So if blood flow is compromised, you'll notice it there first. That means supporting circulation is not just about performance. It's about heart health. Beets also contain betalains, which help reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. Inflammation stiffens arteries. Oxidative stress damages the endothelium. When you lower both, you improve vascular flexibility. Flexible arteries equal better blood delivery. Flexible arteries equal better blood delivery. Now let's take this further. Beet juice works even better when combined with a squeeze of fresh lemon. Vitamin C protects nitric oxide from breaking down too quickly. It extends its activity in the bloodstream. You can also add a small piece of fresh ginger. Ginger improves circulation and reduces inflammation even more. Some people add a pinch of cinnamon to help stabilize blood sugar because high blood sugar damages blood vessels over time. Speaking of blood sugar, insulin resistance is one of the biggest hidden causes of erectile dysfunction. High insulin leads to endothelial damage. It lowers nitric oxide production. It increases inflammation. So if someone is consuming a high-carb diet, even the best natural drink won't fully compensate. Reducing refined carbs and sugars is critical. Now, let's talk about how to use this properly. 1 cup per day is enough. More is not better. If you drink excessive amounts, you may lower blood pressure too much. And if you're already on blood pressure medication, you should monitor carefully. This drink naturally lowers blood pressure because it improves vessel dilation. The best time to drink it is earlier in the day. Nitric oxide production tends to peak a few hours after consumption. Some studies show measurable improvements in circulation within 2 to 3 hours. But there's another layer most people ignore. You must support your mitochondria. These are the energy factories inside your cells. Poor mitochondrial function reduces overall performance and stamina. Nutrients like magnesium, potassium, and adequate protein intake are essential. A deficiency in magnesium alone can impair blood vessel relaxation. When UV rays hit the skin, small amounts of nitric oxide are released into circulation. So, regular sunlight exposure supports this pathway naturally. Sleep is another factor. Poor sleep lowers testosterone and increases cortisol. High cortisol constricts blood vessels. Even the best natural remedies won't override chronic stress and sleep deprivation. Now, let's address expectations. This is not an instant chemical trigger. It's not a forced reaction. It supports your physiology. That means results improve as vascular health improves. Some men notice better performance within a week. For others, it takes consistent use combined with dietary improvements. If you want to enhance the effect even more, consider adding L-arginine or L-citrulline from whole food sources. Watermelon is a natural source of citrulline. Pumpkin seeds contain arginine. These amino acids support nitric oxide production through a different pathway than nitrates. When you combine both pathways, the effect can be synergistic. Also, eliminate seed oils high in omega-6 fatty acids. These promote inflammation and oxidative damage to blood vessels. Replace them with healthier fats like olive oil and avocado oil. Hydration matters as well. Dehydration thickens blood and reduces circulation efficiency. Even mild dehydration can impact vascular performance. Now, here's something interesting. Many men who improve circulation through diet and lifestyle changes also report improved mental clarity and physical endurance. That's because nitric oxide affects the entire vascular system, including the brain and muscles. If erectile dysfunction is primarily vascular in origin, and in many cases it is, then improving blood vessel health is the most logical and sustainable approach. Instead of depending solely on a temporary solution, you're addressing the root cause, 1 cup of fresh beet juice per day. Add lemon, add ginger, keep carbs low, prioritize sleep, get sunlight, manage stress, support magnesium intake, stay hydrated. When you improve blood flow, you improve blood flow. You improve function. And when you improve vascular health, the benefits extend far beyond one area of the body. Beetroot increases nitric oxide to improve blood flow and vascular function, and this is one of the most powerful natural mechanisms for supporting circulation in the body. When we talk about performance issues, especially in men over 35 or 40, the conversation often goes straight to hormones. But in many cases, the real problem is not the hormone level itself. It is the delivery system. Blood flow is everything. Without strong, flexible, healthy blood vessels, even normal hormone levels will not translate into proper function. Beetroot is naturally rich in dietary nitrates. These are not the same as the harmful processed nitrates found in cured meats. The nitrates in vegetables, like beets, are beneficial compounds that your body can convert into nitric oxide. Once consumed, these nitrates are absorbed and enter circulation. Oral bacteria play a role in converting nitrates into nitrites, And then in the body, nitrites are further converted into nitric oxide. This molecule acts as a signaling compound that tells your blood vessels to relax. When blood vessels relax, they widen. This widening process is called vasodilation. Wider vessels allow more blood to flow through with less resistance. That means better oxygen delivery, better nutrient delivery, and more efficient circulation overall. The inner lining of the blood vessels, known as the endothelium, is responsible for producing nitric oxide naturally. But factors like high blood sugar, smoking, chronic stress, lack of sleep, and inflammation can damage the endothelium. When that happens, nitric oxide production drops. Low nitric oxide levels are strongly associated with poor vascular performance. Stiff arteries cannot expand properly. Restricted blood flow means tissues do not receive adequate oxygen when demand increases. His becomes especially noticeable in areas of the body that rely heavily on rapid changes in circulation. The vascular network involved in male performance is particularly sensitive because the arteries are relatively small. Even slight narrowing or stiffness can significantly reduce function. Beetroot provides a direct dietary pathway to increase nitric oxide levels. Instead of relying entirely on the body's own production, you supply the raw materials needed to boost it. Studies have shown that beet juice can lower blood pressure within hours of consumption. Lower blood pressure in this context is not about weakness. It reflects improved vessel flexibility and reduced resistance. When vessels are flexible and responsive, blood can flow efficiently when needed. Nitric oxide also improves endothelial function. The endothelium is not just a passive lining. It is an active organ that regulates clotting, inflammation, and vessel tone. When nitric oxide levels are adequate, the endothelium maintains a smooth surface and prevents excessive platelet aggregation. This reduces the risk of microclots and keeps circulation smooth. Improved endothelial function translates into better vascular responsiveness. Another important factor is oxygen efficiency. Nitric oxide enhances mitochondrial efficiency by improving oxygen utilization in tissues. This means cells can generate energy more effectively. Improved energy production contributes to stamina and overall vitality. Many people who increase dietary nitrates report improved exercise performance because muscles receive better blood flow and oxygen delivery. Beets also contain antioxidants called betalains. These compounds reduce oxidative stress. Oxidative stress damages the endothelium and decreases nitric oxide availability. By reducing oxidative damage, betalains protect nitric oxide from being broken down too quickly. That extends its activity and enhances its effectiveness. Inflammatory markers contribute to arterial stiffness and plaque formation. Beetroot compounds help reduce certain inflammatory pathways, supporting smoother arterial walls. When arteries are less inflamed, they respond better to nitric oxide signals. There are two main pathways for nitric oxide production in the body. One pathway depends on the amino acid L-arginine, which is converted into nitric oxide by nitric oxide synthase enzymes. The second pathway is the nitrate oxide pathway, which is the one beetroot supports. This pathway is especially useful when the enzyme-dependent system is impaired, such as in aging individuals or those with metabolic issues. By activating this alternative route, beetroot provides a backup system for nitric oxide production. Insulin resistance plays a major role in reducing nitric oxide levels. High insulin and high glucose damage the endothelium and reduce nitric oxide synthase activity. Over time, this leads to vascular dysfunction. By supporting nitric oxide through dietary nitrates, beetroot can partially counteract some of this impairment, although dietary changes to reduce insulin resistance remain essential. Hydration also influences how well nitric oxide functions. Thick, dehydrated blood does not flow as efficiently, even if vessels are dilated. Adequate water intake supports optimal circulation. Mineral balance is important as well. Magnesium supports vessel relaxation, and potassium helps regulate blood pressure. Without these minerals, the vasodilatory effect may be limited. 1 cup of fresh beet juice per day is generally sufficient to provide a meaningful amount of dietary nitrates. The effect is not dependent on excessive intake. In fact, more is not necessarily better. The goal is steady support of nitric oxide production. Consistency matters more than high doses. Timing can influence results. Nitric oxide levels tend to rise within a few hours after consuming beet juice. This increase can support circulation during periods of increased demand. However, the long-term benefit comes from sustained improvement in endothelial health and reduced arterial stiffness. Another overlooked factor is oral hygiene practices. Antibacterial mouthwash can reduce the beneficial bacteria in the mouth that help convert nitrates to nitrites. Overuse of strong antiseptic mouthwash may blunt the nitric oxide boost from beetroot. This highlights how interconnected the body's systems are. Beetroot's effect on vascular function extends beyond one specific area. Improved circulation benefits the brain, supporting cognitive clarity. It benefits the heart by reducing workload. It benefits muscles by enhancing endurance. The entire vascular network responds to nitric oxide signaling. As men age, natural nitric oxide production declines. This is partly due to oxidative stress, reduced enzyme activity, and endothelial damage. Supporting this pathway through diet becomes increasingly important. Instead of forcing a chemical reaction, dietary nitrates enhance the body's existing mechanisms. When blood vessels are flexible, responsive, and healthy, circulation becomes efficient. Tissues receive what they need when they need it. Oxygen delivery improves. Nutrient transport improves. Waste removal improves. This is the foundation of vascular health. And beetroot plays a direct role in strengthening that foundation through its nitrate-driven nitric oxide support. Insulin resistance and inflammation are major hidden causes of poor circulation, and this connection is often overlooked when discussing performance issues. Most people immediately think about hormones or age, but the metabolic environment inside the body plays a much larger role than many realize. When insulin levels remain chronically elevated, it creates a cascade of changes that directly impair blood vessel function. Insulin is a hormone designed to help move glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. In a healthy state, insulin rises after a meal and then falls back down. However, with frequent consumption of refined carbohydrates, sugars, and processed foods, insulin stays elevated for long periods. Over time, cells become less responsive to insulin. This condition is known as insulin resistance. The pancreas compensates by producing even more insulin, leading to chronically high insulin levels. High insulin has direct effects on the vascular system. It promotes the growth of smooth muscle cells inside artery walls, which can thicken and stiffen the vessels. It also increases sodium retention, contributing to higher blood pressure. Elevated insulin levels stimulate inflammatory pathways that damage the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of blood vessels responsible for producing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is essential for vessel relaxation. When insulin resistance develops, nitric oxide production declines. At the same time, oxidative stress increases. Reactive oxidative stress increases, begin to accumulate, which rapidly degrade nitric oxide. The result is endothelial dysfunction. Blood vessels lose their ability to dilate properly. Circulation becomes restricted. This is one of the earliest measurable signs of cardiovascular disease. Chronic inflammation compounds the problem. Inflammation is not always obvious. It can exist at a low level for years without noticeable symptoms. High blood sugar, excess body fat, especially visceral fat, poor sleep, stress, and processed seed oils all contribute to inflammatory signaling. Inflammatory molecules such as cytokines interfere with the normal endothelial function and further reduce nitric oxide availability. Visceral fat is particularly problematic because it is metabolically active. Fat cells release inflammatory compounds into circulation. These compounds travel through the bloodstream and directly impact blood vessels. This creates a vicious cycle. Insulin resistance promotes fat storage, especially in the abdominal region. Increased abdominal fat releases more inflammatory mediators. Inflammation worsens insulin resistance. Another consequence of insulin resistance is glycation. When glucose levels are elevated, sugar molecules attach to proteins in a process called glycation. This forms advanced glycation end products. These compounds stiffen collagen in the arterial walls, reducing elasticity. Flexible arteries are essential for proper circulation. When arteries become stiff, they cannot expand efficiently in response to increased demand. High blood sugar also thickens the blood. Glucose increases osmotic pressure and can alter red blood cell flexibility. Less flexible red blood cells have difficulty passing through small capillaries. Microcirculation suffers. Tissues that rely on delicate vascular networks are affected first. Platelets become more likely to aggregate. While clotting is essential in injury, excessive platelet activation can impair smooth blood flow. The combination of thicker blood, stiff vessels, and reduced nitric oxide creates a perfect environment for poor circulation. Cortisol, the stress hormone, adds another layer. Chronic stress elevates cortisol levels. High cortisol raises blood sugar and promotes insulin resistance. It also constricts blood vessels directly. Even if someone is eating well, chronic stress alone can impair vascular function through hormonal imbalance and inflammatory signaling. Sleep deprivation further amplifies the problem. Poor sleep reduces insulin sensitivity. Just a few nights of inadequate sleep can increase fasting blood sugar levels. Sleep loss also elevates inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein. The vascular system depends heavily on restorative sleep to repair endothelial cells and maintain nitric oxide production. Dietary fats influence inflammation as well. Excess consumption of omega-6 fatty acids from industrial seed oils can shift the body toward a pro-inflammatory state. While omega-6 fats are not inherently harmful, imbalance without sufficient omega-3 intake promotes inflammatory eicosanoids. These inflammatory compounds contribute to endothelial irritation and vascular dysfunction. Micronutrient deficiencies are common in insulin-resistant individuals. Magnesium deficiency is particularly important. Magnesium plays a role in glucose metabolism and insulin signaling. Low magnesium worsens insulin resistance and impairs vascular relaxation. Potassium deficiency can contribute to elevated blood pressure. Vitamin D deficiency is associated with increased inflammatory markers and impaired endothelial function. Physical inactivity accelerates insulin resistance. Muscle tissue is one of the largest glucose sinks in the body. When muscles are not used regularly, their ability to absorb glucose declines. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity by increasing glucose transporter activity independent of insulin. It also stimulates nitric oxide production and enhances endothelial health. Excessive fructose intake, especially from sweetened beverages, has unique metabolic effects. Fructose is processed primarily in the liver and can promote fatty liver development. A fatty liver worsens insulin resistance and increases inflammatory output. Elevated triglycerides, often seen in insulin resistance, contribute to small, dense LDL particles that are more prone to oxidation. Oxidized lipids further damage the endothelium. As insulin resistance progresses, the body may develop metabolic syndrome. This cluster includes elevated blood pressure, increased waist circumference, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, and elevated fasting glucose. Each of these factors independently harms vascular health. Together, they significantly impair circulation. One of the earliest warning signs of systemic vascular dysfunction can be reduced performance. Smaller arteries show symptoms sooner than larger coronary arteries. That means circulation problems may become noticeable in specific areas before heart symptoms appear. This makes metabolic health an essential focus rather than solely addressing surface-level symptoms. Reducing insulin resistance begins with lowering refined carbohydrate intake. Stabilizing blood sugar reduces insulin spikes. Increasing protein and healthy fats helps maintain steady glucose levels. Intermittent fasting can improve insulin sensitivity by giving the body time to lower baseline insulin levels. Weight loss, especially reduction of visceral fat, significantly decreases inflammatory output. Anti-inflammatory strategies include increasing omega-3 intake from sources like fatty fish, improving sleep quality, managing stress through breathing techniques or regular physical activity, and ensuring adequate micronutrient intake. Even moderate daily movement improves endothelial responsiveness. When insulin levels normalize and inflammation decreases, nitric oxide production improves naturally. Blood vessels regain flexibility. Endothelial cells repair more effectively. Circulation becomes smoother and more responsive. Addressing insulin resistance and inflammation is not a quick fix, but it targets the root cause of vascular dysfunction and restores the body's natural ability to regulate blood flow efficiently. Lifestyle factors like sleep, sunlight, and magnesium are essential for optimal performance because they directly influence hormones, circulation, nerve signaling, and energy production. Many people search for a single food or supplement to solve performance issues, but the foundation is built on daily habits that regulate the body's internal chemistry. When these core lifestyle elements are out of balance, vascular function and stamina decline, even if diet is relatively clean. Sleep is one of the most powerful regulators of hormonal health. During deep sleep, the body repairs tissues, balances neurotransmitters, and optimizes endocrine function. Testosterone production, for example, is closely tied to sleep quality and duration. Men who consistently sleep less than 6 hours per night often show measurable reductions in testosterone levels. Lower testosterone does not just affect mood and muscle mass. It also influences nitric oxide production and vascular responsiveness. Sleep deprivation also increases cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Elevated cortisol constricts blood vessels and raises blood sugar. Higher blood sugar contributes to insulin resistance, which further damages the endothelium. When cortisol remains elevated for long periods, it creates a state of chronic sympathetic dominance, meaning the body is constantly in a mild fight or flight response. In this state, blood flow is prioritized towards survival systems rather than regenerative functions. Deep sleep supports parasympathetic activity, which is the rest and repair branch of the nervous system. This branch promotes vessel relaxation and hormonal balance. Without sufficient deep sleep cycles, the body struggles to maintain healthy endothelial function. In addition, growth hormone is released during deep sleep. Growth hormone supports tissue repair, fat metabolism, and muscle maintenance. Poor sleep reduces growth hormone output, impairing recovery and energy levels. Sunlight plays a surprisingly important role in vascular health. Exposure to natural sunlight triggers the production of vitamin D in the skin. Vitamin D is not just a vitamin. It functions like a hormone. It influences immune regulation, inflammation control, and endothelial integrity. Low vitamin D levels are associated with increased cardiovascular risk and reduced nitric oxide availability. Beyond vitamin D, sunlight exposure stimulates the release of small amounts of nitric oxide stored in the skin. When ultraviolet rays contact the skin, nitric oxide derivatives are mobilized into circulation. This contributes to vasodilation and improved blood flow. Regular moderate sunlight exposure supports this mechanism naturally. Indoor lifestyles, especially in individuals who rarely go outside, reduce this benefit. Circadian rhythm regulation is another key factor connected to sunlight. Morning light exposure helps synchronize the body's internal clock. A properly aligned circadian rhythm improves sleep quality at night and stabilizes cortisol patterns. When circadian rhythms are disrupted by late night screen exposure and insufficient daylight, hormonal imbalances occur. Melatonin production declines, sleep becomes fragmented, and cortisol patterns become irregular. Magnesium is one of the most critical minerals for vascular relaxation and nerve function. It acts as a natural calcium blocker. Calcium causes muscle contraction, while magnesium promotes relaxation. Blood vessels contain smooth muscle tissue. If magnesium levels are low, vessels are more prone to constriction. Chronic magnesium deficiency can contribute to elevated blood pressure and reduce circulation efficiency. Magnesium also supports over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. Many of these reactions are leved-in energy production within the mitochondria. Mitochondria generate ATP, the energy currency of the cell. Without adequate magnesium, ATP production becomes less efficient. Reduced cellular energy affects stamina and overall vitality. Stress depletes magnesium rapidly. High cortisol levels increase urinary magnesium excretion. Diets high in processed foods are typically low in magnesium because refining removes mineral content. Common symptoms of magnesium deficiency include muscle cramps, poor sleep, irritability, and fatigue. All of these indirectly affect performance. Magnesium also plays a role in regulating blood sugar. Improved insulin sensitivity supports better endothelial function. Since insulin resistance is a major cause of vascular dysfunction, maintaining adequate magnesium levels indirectly protects circulation. Physical activity is another essential lifestyle factor. Regular movement stimulates nitric oxide production through increased shear stress on vessel walls. When blood flows more rapidly during exercise, endothelial cells respond by producing more nitric oxide. This improves vessel flexibility over time. Sedentary behavior reduces this stimulus, allowing vessels to become stiff and less responsive. Resistance training helps maintain muscle mass, which supports metabolic health and testosterone levels. Cardiovascular exercise improves heart efficiency and oxygen delivery. Even simple daily walking improves circulation and reduces inflammatory markers. Hydration influences blood viscosity. Dehydration thickens the blood, making it harder to circulate efficiently. Even mild dehydration can impair physical performance and reduce vascular efficiency. Proper hydration supports plasma volume and nutrient transport. Chronic psychological stress disrupts hormonal balance. Persistent mental strain increases sympathetic nervous system activity, T. This leads to ongoing vasoconstriction. Relaxation practices such as slow breathing, meditation, and time spent outdoors activate the parasympathetic system. Parasympathetic activation promotes vessel relaxation and improved circulation. A nutrient density also matters. Zinc supports testosterone production. B vitamins support nerve signaling and energy metabolism. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation and improve endothelial function. Without adequate micronutrients, even healthy lifestyle habits may not fully restore optimal performance. Body composition plays a significant role. Excess visceral fat increases inflammatory cytokines and lowers testosterone levels. Reducing abdominal fat improves insulin sensitivity and hormonal balance. Lifestyle factors like sleep, exercise, and mineral balance contribute directly to healthier body composition. Alcohol intake can impair sleep architecture and reduce testosterone production. It also increases oxidative stress and depletes magnesium. Limiting alcohol supports hormonal stability and vascular health. Blue light exposure at night suppresses melatonin production. Melatonin is not only a sleep hormone, it is also a powerful antioxidant that protects the endothelium from oxidative damage. Protecting nighttime melatonin production by reducing late screen exposure helps preserve vascular integrity. Temperature regulation through practices like cold exposure or sauna use may support vascular flexibility. Heat exposure from sauna sessions increases heart rate and promotes circulation. Cold exposure can improve vascular tone when practiced safely and gradually. The combination of restorative sleep, regular sunlight exposure, adequate magnesium intake, consistent physical activity, stress management, hydration, and nutrient-dense food intake forms the foundation for optimal vascular and hormonal function. When these core elements are aligned, nitric oxide production improves, inflammation decreases, hormones stabilize, and circulation becomes more efficient throughout the body.